9 deaths in 9 days on Denver streets. As word spreads about a bad batch of drugs, advocates say a slow response by the city isn't helping. 2 event venues give the stiff arm to the straight-armed keynote speaker for Colorado Republicans' big fundraiser. I may look like the I see dead people kid, but I know an alive person when I see one. And regardless of what the government says, this next viewer is alive.
We're sorry to hear about the recent loss of Thomas Kine. What a bunch of crap.
And a nonprofit organizing crews of young people and veterans to do wildfire mitigation and trail work is suddenly faced with the loss of federal funds. Bet you can guess what we're going to do about that tonight on Next. 2 men have escaped from the ICE detention facility in Aurora. We learned within the last few minutes that this went down yesterday, on a day when there were protesters outside that facility all day with an extra large police presence there in response. ICE says it's asked local law enforcement to help them look for these 2 guys, but because of how local police limit their work with immigration agents, ICE says they've declined to help. ICE says after this escape and the lack of local law enforcement help, they then reached out to state and federal agencies for assistance. At this point, it is not clear if the 2 men who escaped were facing criminal charges, whether they were at this detention facility simply on civil immigration detainers as they were prepared for deportation. We're gathering more information about what happened, and we'll bring it to you here. 9 people have died on Denver streets over the last 9 days. Now, there are assumptions as to why, urgency to find out why, yet it will likely be months before the coroner's office puts out something official. Advocates trying to reduce overdoses in the city tell our Jaleesa Irizarry this is part of the problem.
Lately, those on Denver streets can count on one thing: a growing body count.
1 last night, 2 the night before, 1 on Friday night, 2 on Thursday, 3 last Monday. Like, what? It's like so many, it's so overwhelming.
Lisa Ravel is the executive director of the Harm Reduction Action Center. The string of outdoor death investigations she's talking about started last Monday at 14th Avenue and Race around 7:30 that morning. Since then, DPD has reported 8 more outdoor death investigations throughout the city. The most recent happening at 17th in California early yesterday morning. Ravel believes these deaths may be drug-related.
People who use drugs are saying it's the powder right now, but again, they'll need to confirm that with other folks.
We tried, but the reality is the city won't have that answer for a while. The Denver Department of Public Health says they have recently seen an increase in non-deadly overdoses, but can't say how many have been fatal because toxicology results aren't back. According to their website, we'll likely be waiting on those for 70 to 90 days.
In 12 to 18 weeks, I'm not going to care about that supply because we're going to have something different. It's going to be shifting. We need better communication. People are dying and they're dying publicly, and we can do better.
Denver's health department says they get those frustrations, but the delay is because they have to send their toxicology information to a lab out of state to get the results. A long wait. Rayville fears may shorten lives.
We want to make sure that people have really good factual health information because we don't believe people should have to die of a preventable overdose.
Denver's health department says while they have had a total of 10 outdoor deaths in all of March, they say it's important to keep in mind some of them could have died from natural causes or a traffic crash. We asked if any of those deaths showed obvious signs of blunt trauma, and they would not say.
Why is this stuff going out of state for testing and analysis?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So they say they need to send this evidence to a certified lab and one that has credentials to be able to testify in court. And apparently none of those exist in Colorado.
That sounds like a whole other story. All right, Jaleesa Irizarry, thank you very much. Colorado's jobs picture was not quite as positive as initially reported last year. The Department of Labor says Colorado underestimated employment levels each month in 2024, and it means that the state is actually lagging just behind national unemployment trends. Each March, the Bureau of Labor Statistics revises the unemployment estimates from the year before. This is a standard procedure. It's because new information like population data and census data come in. The new numbers show that Colorado added 32,000 non-farm jobs in 2024, 32,000 instead of the 48,000 originally estimated. The state's unemployment rate for last year ticked up from 3.9% to 4.3% compared to the national unemployment rate of 4%. Colorado's economy is starting this year at a slower pace than the rest of the U.S. The state's unemployment rate jumped to 4.7% in January. The annual tweaking of these numbers is particularly important this year because the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics had raised concern about the accuracy of Colorado's numbers. The state said it was in the process of modernizing its unemployment system. That's been done, and now the feds again are accepting Colorado's jobs numbers. Sometimes investigative reporting takes years to get answers. Sometimes it's as simple as asking one question. Our Mark Salinger then discovered the difficulty in getting the government to accept the answer.
Tom, are you alive?
Very much.
At 90 years old, Tom Kind wants the world to know he's still here.
You can't talk to anybody. You can't get through. I sit on the phone for an hour.
Well, really, he just wants to prove that to the Social Security Administration.
To the estate of Thomas Kind, we're sorry to hear about the recent loss of Thomas Kind. We want to share some information with you without placing any extra burden on you at this time. What a bunch of crap.
A couple weeks ago, he got a letter from his healthcare provider notifying him that he had died a year and a half ago. Yeah, seriously. Tom lost access to his benefits, healthcare, and even a bank account. His family has struggled to get in touch with anyone who can help.
I'm fearful that's going to be a very difficult process.
Jeff Syrup is Tom's nephew.
If you talk to Tom, he'll tell you that it's impossible, or he's been very unsuccessful. He's been trying for 10 days or so.
We got in touch with the Social Security Administration in Denver today, who promised to help Tom become undead, or at least that's how we're interpreting it. The office told me of the roughly 3 million deaths reported to the Social Security Administration every year, less than 1/3% need to be corrected. Yet that could mean up to 10,000 people are wrongly declared dead every year.
I'm just looking for whoever's got some ideas, turn the benefits back on.
We're working on it, Tom, because clearly you're very much alive.
What did I do to deserve this?
Social Security Administration told me today that if a person suspects that they have been incorrectly listed as deceased but are still very much alive, they should contact their local Social Security office as soon as possible. You have to bring a non-expired ID to prove your identity, or I guess maybe in Tom's case, they could just show them this news story.
If we're remaking the entire federal government, might I suggest, based on the impact of this mistake, they open up an office of I'm Not Dead Yet, where you just call, say you're not dead, and they undead you right away.
Listen, there's a lot of talk right now about people who are dead receiving Social Security benefits mistakenly. Tom is very much alive and is still not getting them.
He's been on TV, everybody. He's not
alive.
Dead. Mail the man his checks. Jeez, Mark Salinger, thank you. So there are a slew of leaders from the Colorado Department of Corrections on paid leave and under investigation right now. More people than we originally knew about. And the state is keeping this real quiet. The list of DOC leaders on leave includes the wardens at Sterling and Fremont, the warden at the Denver Reception and Diagnostic Center, the director of adult parole, the associate director of adult parole, a parole officer, a program manager, and any curious Coloradan is SOL because the DOC won't say what's happening. But you know we are annoyingly persistent, and this seems like the kind of thing that should be explained to inmates and their families and taxpayers, so we will keep investigating. And lo and behold, in the minute since we went on the air with Next, we heard back from the governor's office on this. I want to read you something that they wrote to us. They said that the governor was made aware this week of several investigations ongoing at the Department of Corrections. Governor's office says those investigations are near their final stages, and that the governor wants the DOC to be transparent. Each year, teams of young people and veterans go out on public lands in Colorado to do wildfire mitigation, trail maintenance, park improvements. The longtime nonprofit that runs those crews is facing a sudden $46,000 budget gap due to uncertainty around federal funding. So let's do what we do. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign will support the Southwest Conservation Corps. Right now, they are planning out which projects can happen in the spring and summer and which will have to go on hold. Southwest Conservation Corps, which is a program of the nonprofit Conservation Legacy out of Durango, works across southern and central Colorado. Their teams of veterans, young people, young adults go out to do things like clear dead and dying trees so that trails remain safe and open, don't have to close for the season. They remove invasive species so that native plants and animals can thrive. And they do wildfire mitigation in the areas where Colorado's wilderness meets communities to keep people safe from fires. They're planning work in 2025 at the Great Sand Dunes National Park, in Colorado's national forests, including the Pike, San Isabel, San Juan National Forest. They have projects in Chaffee County, Alamosa County. The list just goes on and on. This is training people for future careers and protecting our outdoors while simultaneously keeping Colorado's public lands open and safe for all of us to enjoy. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate. Your $14 million in microgiving proves the power of small donations adding up. I truly think that we can make up their $46,000 funding shortfall. You know the deal. I'm not going to leave you hanging. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. More than 4,500 of you have signed up to simplify your giving by making a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You donate once, put in your info once. You don't get hit with a bunch of emails and mailers. We just divide your donation among all the nonprofits we feature each week. It's meant that we started our recent campaigns with more than $30,000 in donations. Colorado Republicans are struggling to find a place to hold a fundraiser featuring Steve Bannon. It might have something to do with an arm gesture that he made at a recent speaking engagement. That's meteorologist Chris Spears is driving the weather bus for us today. And Chris, I feel like last night's wind blew out that false spring that we had and made today feel a lot more like winter.
It did, but hold on. We're going to turn those winds around, Kyle, and we will bring some spring right back into the picture as soon as tomorrow. Showing you the latest wind speeds, we still have places 30 to 40 miles per hour out here on the plains, but the numbers are coming down. Burlington, 26. That's a nice number to see. High pressure coming in overnight tonight will push that storm away. That's going to bring warmer air in. Tomorrow through Saturday, a little low pressure comes in off the Pacific and moves to our north. We will be in between these two features. That will create a pressure gradient driving the wind, and that is going to bring fire danger back into the picture. We have red flag warnings for tomorrow and Friday on the southeastern plains. Single digits in the mountains tonight, teens and 20s for the eastern plains and western slope. To put it into perspective, Denver should be 29 for tomorrow morning, so a little bit below normal, but we're going to warm it up. 50s and 60s east and west tomorrow, 30s and 40s in the high country. And your extended forecast, first day of spring, well, it finally looks like it. By next week, we may have highs approaching 70.
The Colorado Republican Party is having a hard time finding a location for its biggest fundraiser of the year. They announced MAGA strategist Steve Bannon would be the headliner one day after Bannon made headlines for delivering a straight-armed salute that he insisted was absolutely not a Nazi salute. You can imagine businesses might be wary about hosting someone hoisting one of those to a cheering crowd. Well, now it appears several hotels have allied their powers against the axis of Bannon and the Colorado GOP. The Denver Tech Center Marriott says it told the GOP to stop advertising the event there. The Colorado Springs Gazette says the Antlers Hotel in the Springs abruptly canceled on the party next. At this point, the Colorado GOP just needs a space with seats, a stage, and a tall enough ceiling that Steve Bannon can extend his arm at a perfectly innocent 45-degree angle. The Gazette says the Republican Party has now found such a venue. The former Boot Barn Hall in Colorado Springs. Appropriate, seeing how the current far-right leadership of the Colorado GOP got its start in the parking lot of a boot barn, where they held a rally labeling fellow Republicans as whores, and a word I can't say on TV.
We have a Republican Party that is full of whores. They've not held to the U.S. Constitution, and then you wonder why these can't win a race.
The Colorado GOP did not respond to our questions about the Bannon event bouncing from one venue to another to another, perhaps as protection in case of another development they do not see coming. The fundraiser invite now lists the location as to be announced. Finding the right college can be hard. Finding the right college to accommodate a disability can be even harder. A technical college wants to meet students where they are. That's next. Searching for the right college or university is tough enough for a student. Layer on the challenge of a disability, it becomes a daunting choice to find just the right fit. A technical college in Denver is is trying to bridge the gap. Our Byron Reed has that.
A key ingredient to academic success is opportunity.
Emily Griffith, her motto was, "For all who wish to learn."
It's a rule that's been part of Emily Griffith Technical College for more than a century.
The whole premise of that was that anyone who walked in the doors was to be given an opportunity to better themselves.
Tisha Chapman is the Vice President of Student Services at the college that's offering higher education access for people with disabilities through classes like culinary arts.
The common accommodation really is just having that extra time.
The college works with students who self-identify as a person with a disability to make their transition from high school with the support they need.
We have offered anything from needing additional time to take tests, all the way to I've had a student who was hearing impaired and we actually provided interpreters.
Chapman says their hope is to remove any barriers their students may face.
And it's also not the stigma that it was before, which I think has helped really shape or increase our numbers and shape the environments here at our college.
Through their initiative, the school is seeing success.
So right now, we're sitting at 85% of our students complete, 93% of them are gainfully employed, and 100% are passing their licensure. Our students with disabilities that I've identified, they're seeing the same success as students who don't identify.
It's a long-time mission that's helping all their students cook up a college education and a way for them to measure their future success.
My best hope is that they come in, they're able to get into a program that they are passionate about, that they feel good about, and that they're able to be gainfully employed, and then not only take care of themselves, but also take care of their families.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Good on Emily Griffith. We will be back with your feedback delivered by Marilyn in the 9 News swag. Represent. Next. Southwest Conservation Corps takes teams of young people and veterans into Colorado's public lands each year to do wildfire mitigation to protect communities from fires and also trail maintenance to make sure that our beautiful places are still accessible. And that nonprofit is now facing a $46,000 federal funding shortfall. So here's the deal. If you're good for one $5 donation, I'm good for 50 of those, and I bet you we can take a bite out of that budget gap real fast. Southwest Conservation Corps, Program of Conservation Legacy out of Durango, is figuring out which of its planned projects around the state it'll be able to complete with that uncertain funding so we can really make a tangible difference. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to join me in donating. This feedback came in from Carolyn roughly 60 seconds ago. I wrote it down as fast as I could, Carolyn. She says, thank you for the piece about Steve Bannon. She says, it is important to note that the first venues for that event backed down as a direct result of public opposition, voicing their opinion about things. Well, Carolyn, no venue is going to say, yeah, we backed down because of public opposition. It certainly was out there. We just can't causally link the two. Does that seem fair, right? They were both there at the same time.